or two. Hopefully you'll enjoy this and learn something a little bit about state citizenship and things like that. If you're looking at this video and you've missed tonight, then we want you to understand that it's our goal to have a weekly call on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock is a Q&A for state citizenship and things like that. And then at the 8 o'clock hour Eastern Standard Time, we hope to cover a particular subject. And tonight at 8 o'clock, we're going to talk a little bit about discharging debt and the service that we provide and things like that, and what you could expect in that process. So that'll be on the second hour. And so let me see if I can get this recording here. We're recording on YouTube, but I'm going to go ahead and start recording this on the website as well. So, oh, that's interesting. All right, so let's see if I can, well, that's weird. It's saying I'm not able to record. Let's see if we'll try it again. Oh, that's interesting. Well, how about that for a faux pas? So I guess we won't be recording this on the website. But anyway, the recording is going live on YouTube, so you'll be able to catch it on the website or on the YouTube channel. This is DestinationFreedom.org. So I want to just reiterate that it's our goal to be able to be on here every week and do a Q&A and then handle different subjects. So if you're looking for that debt discharge information, then you can, if you want to click ahead and get to the an hour in and be able to get to that topic of debt discharge, you can do that on this video. So that'll work out great. If you're looking to ask questions, you can come into the go-to meeting. We have a few people in there already, and then that way you're able to ask questions and things like that. I am able to read your questions if you have them on the YouTube channel, and I'll endeavor to not miss anything and be glad to answer those questions in the video. And again, if this is recorded, then next week you can always go to the website DestinationFreedom.org, and there are links to click to get into our call so that we can have an exchange and be a little more interactive. So just wanted to invite you into that, and again, welcome to tonight's call. Some people I've noticed refer to this as a class, and although there's some of that, I guess that kind of a vibe or what have you, but I think of this just as a conference call, and where I can answer questions and have some interaction. But we do have classes and workshops at the website. One of our significant classes, a foundational class, if you will, is the state versus federal citizenship, the unknown choice. That class will talk a little bit about liberty and freedom, and about the basis of your liberty and the power that you have, and how government gets that, and the states and what created the states. And then we get into some broad strokes concerning the federal government and the Constitution and what empowers it. And we end up in the tax code, and we talk about who the income tax is for and why. We get into that. We show you that. It's in that class that I'll show you that the federal income tax absolutely is constitutional. I mean, there's a lot of people that have sentiment that that the federal government is somehow violating the Constitution. It is not. That's not it at all. And when you understand the concepts of federal jurisdiction, you'll realize that the Constitution is the document that has empowered the federal government to do exactly what it's doing. That would include, regulating, guns, firearms and such as that, and regulating food and drug, and every aspect of the U.S. citizen's life. The Constitution and the 14th Amendment specifically has empowered the federal government to govern that privilege, if you want to consider it that. But anyway, once you understand that, you realize that it's not something that you might want to participate in, and that'll be and you'll understand why. So anyway, the class is unique that way. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I've come to realize that what if the federal government is actually upholding the Constitution? Maybe the Constitution isn't, as tight of a document to regulate the federal government to do what it's doing. So it says the go-to meeting link is not working on the website. Well, that's I don't think I'll just test that out right now. But some people have trouble with the go-to meeting link. We'll see if it actually goes through. Nope, looks like it's still working. So I'm sorry you're having trouble. Some people have trouble with the. If you want to refresh your screen or go reach out to go-to meeting if you're having trouble with that. And I just clicked on it and it went to the go-to meeting site. So you can try it. I mean, I'm on the website here and I just clicked on it and it went over to the call. If maybe you can go up under council assistance and then let's see, under the conference call and scroll down to that. Let's see if that link is working there as well. Just want to check. Sorry to let me see if I can click here to go to the meeting call. Let's see if that's going to go. Under the conference call link. Let's see if it's going to load up to go to me. There it is. No, both are working just fine, at least as far as I'm concerned. But listen, someone says in the chat, it says, now that I am aware that I have been filing my passport paperwork incorrectly, yet have not made an effort to correct, would I be perjuring myself for filing income tax return with the W-4 docs I received for 23? Well, I mean, when you sign those documents, you signed them as true under penalty of perjury. And as far as you were concerned at the time, it was absolutely true and correct. So you never perjure yourself in that capacity. That's what you believed. That's what you thought was true and correct. And but now that you know something different, your conscience may be saying, I don't want to perjure myself. I want to do something correctly. That can make a huge difference. Not that much has changed with respect to all the places that you have filled out bad paperwork. That's why we invite people to do their passport process first, so that can begin their journey and make that correction with their passport or with the State Department that in the passport process is determining citizenship. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Whether you want to file now, since that some of this information, that may be a game changer for you. No one can determine that but you. Now you're hearing about these things and you're seeing them, but if you can't tell or be able to explain from the tax code why you should or shouldn't file income taxes or whatever, then I highly recommend that you enroll in that state citizenship class. It's on the website. It's $385, and it's a 6-hour work class, and you're able to take a look at that and understand those principles. That has huge value, And so if you're going to do the passport workshop, you'll have to take the class first. With the full passport process, you have access to that class, and we highly recommend it, but we can begin your passport process before or at the same time that you're enjoying that class. You won't be able to get into any of the other subject matter until you take the class. So it is required for everybody now to take the class, because it's important that they understand this jurisdictional concept. Someone says, can I set up a separate entity, separate from my wife, who I filed jointly with her, as we are on Social Security? I think I had seen, that's interesting. I think I had, I was going to say, I thought that's a very common question. No, it's not necessary for you to set up a separate entity or any entity at all. You can do things in your personal private capacity. But if your wife who's filing is filing, she's not going. She wouldn't have your Social Security. You're not going to sign up with that way. She's not going to do anything jointly. If she's going to file and pay, let her file and pay separately and do her own thing, because with the tax code, they look at husband and wife as the same entity. And so if the wife has a tax liability, they can pursue the husband and his assets if they're federal citizens. But if your wife is claiming to be a federal citizen, she may or may not be anyway, but and you're not, then you definitely might want to have things differently. But you're not going to file at all if you don't have a tax liability. If you still determine that you have a tax liability, then of course, you may be filing until you understand the subject matter. That's really important. So hopefully that makes sense. And again, the idea of the Social Security number, there's some presumptions with that. When we do the passport process, we handle the idea of Social Security, that you're not contracting, that it doesn't create an assumption that you're a federal citizen or having a tax liability, things like that. So those are important distinctions to make. Someone in our go-to meeting asked, what if I have a passport already? Can I redo my passport? Yeah, what we do with that is we have to communicate to the State Department that your previous application had errors concerning your proper citizenship and nationality. So that's part of that process. You'll be turning in your current passport, or even if it's expired or whatever, the gesture of turning it in because the application for it had errors concerning your proper citizenship. And so yes, we do that. We turn that in. You'll get a new passport, and that new passport will be associated with what you've said under penalty of perjury with your new application. So yes, that's we consider that a correction, so that the State Department knows that the previous application had errors, and therefore it's not valid with respect to this subject matter and things like that. So hope that makes sense for you. One of the things that we've changed over the years is that we've now, used to be that people would do the passport workshop, full passport process and all that. Then we have our classes and workshops, and they were somewhat a la carte, where you could pick and choose and all that. We determined that everybody needs everything. And so recently we have combined everything. And then that way, when you sign up for the passport workshop or the full passport process, you're getting everything. And that's some of the things that we wanted to do differently. Greg says, does Social Security stop when you become a state citizen? Do you need to inform anyone? No, there's no notifications to Social Security. I've never seen anything that stopped or interrupted with respect to doing the passport process. No one is getting notifications of any sort. You can notify Social Security if you're not interested in receiving money from the District of Columbia. That's something that you can do. And then some people, even though they've done the passport process, even though they may not be filing, they may still receive Social Security. Now, I just want you to know that we don't recommend that. And of course, we also want you to know that if you're receiving money from the District of Columbia, and that's where Social Security comes from, the federal government, the District of Columbia, you are setting up a tax liability for yourself, because money that's received from the District of Columbia is certainly taxable. And it's bizarre, and who would ever continue to pay federal income tax, in the sense that, here it is, people live, they're taxed on their income, the Social Security is pulled out, and then while they're receiving Social Security, they're going to be taxed on it again. It's a lovely relationship that people have with the federal government. I don't know why anybody would want to stay in there. So, and then again, it's at your own discretion. There's no need to inform anybody of anything, okay? But you may choose to inform them if you're receiving that. I'm asserting that the only ones that are really allowed to receive Social Security are U.S. federal citizens and resident aliens, okay? So, but these days, they hand out Social Security to anyone, doesn't matter who you are. It's just a welfare program. Nobody owes you anything. Do you need to tell them to stop? Um, it depends on how, we always say all in or all out. Don't play this middle of the fence. You can create yourself a tax liability. The IRS can pursue you and say, oh, you have income, over here you are a U.S. citizen receiving, Social Security, but over here you're not paying taxes. It's not good. I don't recommend it. But nothing's happening. You're responsible for yourself. It's a risk for you. I want to tell you that, okay? So if that doesn't bother you and you feel justified, let me tell you, IRS has no problem taking some of your Social Security. We've seen that even for clients, if you will. But remember Irwin Schiff, that's Peter Schiff's father. He went to prison. He didn't like it that IRS was taking his Social Security. And so, he was certainly in that jurisdiction. They prosecuted him. He went to jail and certainly died in prison. I don't recommend that for you, but that's what, wanting to be on the public dole is all about. So anyway, so it looks like on the website it says your session is temporarily unavailable. We're having trouble. Maybe that's why there's not so many people. I don't know how to correct that while we're doing. What I can do is, this will be interesting. I will, let me try this. But we're staying live on YouTube. Just hang in here. We're doing a little technical trouble. I'm going to go ahead and close out the call. Those of you that are on the call right now, we want to invite you to come back in. And I'll answer that question about passport process, about Massachusetts. I'll answer both those. Let me just do that. Maureen, you might have to ask your questions again, your last two questions. I'm just going to go ahead and close out the meeting and then restart it up. If you want to hang on here, we'll do a technical faux pas here. So hold on. Those of you on YouTube, we'll see how this goes. Okay, so let's see. So hang on. Anyway, we're on YouTube. We're going to get back to our questions here in a second. So let's see. I see the problem. Maybe that was maybe it was doing two things at the same time. All right, let's see here. Okay. All right. Oh yeah, I can see this. Let's see. There's definitely something happening on the GoToMeeting. So maybe we're going to see who can log on here. All right. Let's see what we got here. All right, let's see. Oh. Wow, that's definitely having some. So stand by here. So, and again, if this is a recording, let me do this. This is definitely funky. Let me just close that out. All right. Don't you love technology? Let's see here. Oh yeah, this is definitely weird. All right, so all right, and I apologize. I'm just trying to get the GoToMeeting to start back up again, and we'll see if that's going to work or not. Let's see here. Okay. Sometimes these websites are not so cool. Yeah, it seems like it's trying to refresh. Yeah, it's definitely, GoToMeeting is definitely having trouble. So what I'm going to try to do is, let's see if I can do this here. Wait a minute. Oh man, so the website isn't working. Just came on you. Oh, that's good. I'm sorry that the website, the GoToMeeting website is having trouble. We'll get that back up, and I'll make sure I get all your questions answered before we close out here. So I appreciate your patience. Let's see if I can get us back into that. Wouldn't that be terrible if we weren't able to? So how kind you are to hang in there. All right, let's see here. All right, so let's see. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, it's definitely GoToMeeting is definitely having trouble. Wow, how about that? Crazy. See, that's the trouble. That's the trouble with the doing websites is that you're subject to having trouble. Yeah, I mean if their website's having trouble, it's funky. Trying to get on there. Let's see if I can log in with the. Yeah, even this is trouble. Yeah, I can't get into the rooms. Yeah, it's not even loading the different call rooms we have. Think big in small groups. Enable the new breakout rooms. Yeah, it's like this is ridiculous. Yeah, the GoToMeeting is definitely having trouble. Now, isn't that sad? I was going to talk about the bankers tonight, and well, that's terrible. All right. Well, I can try that in a few minutes, but I'm not. I'm gonna. People can go to the website, and I think that's probably what they're going to end up doing. So let's just continue on. 20 minutes into this, I'm just going to handle the subject matter, and we'll just go on. So I apologize for the GoToMeeting. That's really kind of funky. All right. I want to get into people's questions here. It said, yeah. So they talked about the session. Yeah, I'm going to try it again a little bit. That was coming up from the GoToMeeting. Yeah, it's all messed up. Let's say one person says here, I want to stop Social Security, but who do I tell to avoid the problems? You can stop receiving Social Security anytime. You can send the checks back, or you can reach out to them and say, I don't qualify for Social Security not being a U.S. citizen or a resident alien. If you don't understand that subject matter, then I definitely recommend that you that you learn this material so that you understand why you're doing what you're doing. I would say it's an important thing to realize that if you're so dependent on the federal government, that's the best you can do to create wealth for yourself. Well, your issue isn't that you pay too much in taxes. Your issue is that your world's too small, and that you need to create wealth. And we're interested in helping you do that. Not necessarily. I mean, you could definitely be a part of supporting us and developing these kind of things. And we have an affiliate program and things like that. But you want to be able to create enough wealth for yourself. And if you look at how much, how close to what Social Security is paying out, is that to minimum wage or a very small wage, and so people that are in retirement age should have the capacity to be able to create wealth with others or for others, and that they make wealth for themselves. And if you can't imagine that because you've worked a job all your life, it would be no different than someone who grew up on a plantation and all they knew how to do was be a slave, and they've never ever fully been responsible to risk for themselves and to make their own way and all that, because the key to freedom is responsibility. So if that's where you are, and not like a bad thing, but if that's really where you think that you can't do something, that's what I believe the Creator is inviting you to step into a new and a different place. And one of the homework assignments I usually give people when they're starting this journey is I want you to go on, do a Google search for who started or launched their career at 60 years old or 70 years old or even 80 years old. Who launched a new career or business at 80 years old, and use them as a model, saying and knowing that you can do the same. Yeah, the GoToMeeting is completely messed up. It keeps saying something looks like that stinks. See, I mean, ultimately, I want to be able to just go on our own website and have our own video and all that, not have to rely upon some third party for our stuff. So I appreciate everybody being on tonight, and I guess that's where we're going to be. So just hang tight, and I'm going to try to answer all of your questions. So anyway, my heart goes out to people who think that Social Security is the best they got or can do. And again, you've been sold a bill of goods and you bought it, and you can decide you're going to have a different world or reality at any time. I am committed to helping you in whatever way we possibly can. It may require a little bit from you, but again, I'm committed to you staying out of the federal zone. It said, I put a disability claim in the VA and expect a rating that does not include monetary compensation. Should I cancel this claim so that I can get out of the federal citizen status? It's a great word. And the thing about that is, it's a good question. The thing is when you contract work and you've served as a veteran or whatever it is, those agreements were made, and you have a right to expect the performance or claim that for yourself, of course, and you've certainly sacrificed certainly part of your life or your health or what have you in that. I get it. And someone could easily make the claim that that's there. We've never had anybody who's done these processes have their disability cut off and all that, okay? But at the same time, you have to understand that the American people never made those contracts. And these politicians have abused and have poorly handled these relationships when they've sacrificed everything. So, and there is a way to create wealth and to do things to where you can care for yourself. But again, this process doesn't stop any of that, okay? But it may create a tax liability, and the federal government doesn't care about people. They just want to control in some capacity. So, so I'm just saying that you'll have to look at what those agreements are and to determine whether you're claiming to be a federal citizen. So there may be a possibility, and I haven't reviewed this documentation that you've been involved with, but you may be able to file these claims and not be a federal citizen and such as that, and not create a tax liability if they have a genuine obligation to you on some capacity. But never forget that anything that's coming from the District of Columbia is coming from the people on some level. Now, in the reality of things, the federal government doesn't raise the greatest part of its money from taxation. It raises the greatest part of its money from debt. So we're constantly creating these relationships with the Federal Reserve and the central banks. That's really what's occurring, because the federal government has no Social Security for you, whoever has Social Security. The federal government has no VA benefits for you. They're broke. They're trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. And so they don't have cash, extra cash. There's a lot of Federal Reserve notes, but I'm saying there is a lot of printed Federal Reserve notes, and yet still there's more debt than even that there are Federal Reserve notes created. The system is designed to collapse on itself. There's not enough actual Federal Reserve notes to pay the debt. People have to default on their debt. And later at the top of the hour, the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to talk about discharging debt and how we do that and what that's all about, so that you can know. Yeah, the GoToMeeting site is definitely funky. So I'm just going to see if it's the browser. So I'm just going to close the browser down and see if it'll set. And it may be the cache that's associated. I mean, who the heck knows some of these things. And I'm going to see if I can log on again and get into the site. But it looks like other people are having the same problems. So it's just unfortunate. But anyway, let me just go on, continue on with some of the questions. Learning about you from Jeff and Lucy. Well, that's good. That's awesome. Jeff and Lucy are good folks. I did, in the interview that I did with Jeff, Lucy jumped up, and obviously I must have tasted like a taco, because she was definitely going back. Yeah, the GoToMeetings site is a bunch of junk. What a mess. I'll be reaching out to them tonight and find out. what the heck they were doing. It's dreadful. So I can't do anything. I'm glad you're on. We've got 27 people on tonight, and I'm glad you're here. Let's see here. When's the best time of day for a one-hour consultation? Well, what I would recommend to do is if you go on the website and you sign up for that, there's a PayPal link and you can do that. And then that will create, I'll reach out or someone in my staff will reach out to you and we will pick that time. I'll get you, I'll reach out to you. Do that on the website. You can go to DestinationFreedom.org, and then at the top under Counsel Assistance, you'll see there'll be a drop down. You'll see consultation, and you'll sign up. I'll see that on the website, and then there's a link in there, a button in there for a hold harmless agreement. You'll want to fill that out and get that notarized and send that in, and then we'll set up that hour call for you. If this isn't, if you want to talk privately or about your things like that. Let's see here. We're gonna hang here for. That's good. I look like a famous actor. Yeah, someone said that today. I was. I'm here in Florida, and there was a woman. I was doing some. We're changing our relationship we have with our timeshare and all that stuff, and so we're upgrading all that. So I was filling out paperwork. I was filling out banking paperwork, and it's interesting on that. And I'll get into talking more about state citizenship stuff here in this hour. But they had a form in there. They said they wanted me to sign off on that I am not a non-resident alien. And I said to them, well, I am a non-resident alien. I don't reside in the District of Columbia, and I'm alien with respect to the District of Columbia or the federal government. And so I am a citizen of New Hampshire. And, they're not getting this like, well, this is what we always fill out. I know this is the way you always fill things out, but I cannot. I said, look right here where it says, I can't perjure myself. Okay, it's illegal. They can fine me a certain amount, and they can put me in, can incarcerate me. I'm not going to lie under penalty of perjury about these matters. And then they cited 1445. This is just in moving timeshare and releasing it and just upgrading a timeshare and all that. There's a property change. Section 1445 of the tax code deals with the transfer of a United States real property interest. That's why we have a workshop on 1445. So that if you were doing like what I was doing, you would know that what you have to do is give them your W-8 and W-9. So the woman that I was dealing with, she says, well, I would like your tax documents and stuff before we wrap up today. So I came back here to the hotel and typed up my W-8 and W-9, and I have my printer with me. I always have my work with me because I'm always serving you. But anyway, so I got it over to them, so everything's copacetic and was working good. Now, if for some reason they don't want to do it because I didn't fill that paperwork out, which I can't because I'll be perjuring myself, then the deal won't go through, which I'm okay with too. I'm not going to compromise everything in order for some benefit that I may think is important. Anyway, this woman said I look like some famous actor, but yeah. I don't know. This person's probably funny that way. I was given a lot of crap at an Acapulco because they all was saying that I look like Bill Clinton. That's not a funny thing. I did not have sex with that woman. Anyway, that's his line. All right. The next question is in this presentation replayed at 7 p.m. Pacific, or how do we find another presentation? This is going to be on YouTube, and you can watch this again and again. So this will be on the YouTube channel. This is live and is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch this again. So what's the stream about? I'm not sure what's this stream about. Oh, well, this hour we're answering questions about state versus federal citizenship. We'll talk about the passport process. We have a full passport process, and remember, both the passport workshop where you do your own paperwork and the full passport process where we do your paperwork, both those processes include all of our workshops with them. And then we have a stamp. It's not in front of me here. We have an all rights reserved stamp. We'll also mail that to you as well. That's all included. So we've included all of the things we do for our clients all together. That way they benefit. So those of you who have already done these processes before, you're going to be able to buy in to the other workshops and things for less than what they go for individually and on the website and all that. So we want to be able to invite you to come in and be in the same place we have all these new clients where they get everything that we have. So that second hour, we're going to talk about at the top of the hour, 8 o'clock, we're going to get into talk about debt discharge and how we're doing that, why we're doing it and all that, so that you can understand what that process is about. Someone says here, once you become a state citizen, do you need to notify your bank that you're not a federal citizen to not have a tax liability? That's a good question. And no, you don't have to let anybody know anything. There's no requirement for that. But you have to understand that you have paperwork that is filled out improperly. So what we recommend is once you've done these processes, then you might submit to your bank your W-8 and W-9 and say, my other tax documents are not valid anymore. I did a process with the U.S. State Department, and so I'm making these changes. I no longer have a tax liability. So here's my W-8 and W-9. See, feels much better. Now, what we don't recommend is that if you have a bank account that has a tax ID number, and I'm not talking about a social security number, an actual tax ID number, a TIN or an EIN, yes, those accounts you should shut down, because those will be saying that you're doing a trade or business in the United States or the District of Columbia, and that is not what you want. Your social security number is being used as an identifier. It's not a TIN, a tax ID number. It's a number that was issued as a part of a senior welfare program. That's what that number is. They're using it as an identifier. They say that on the instructions on the passport application. So that's how that is. And again, the value of having a bank account in your own, with your social security or in your own name is valuable to you. Now, yes, you can shut it down if you want to live without doing bank accounts. That's up to you. Some people find it difficult to do business that way. But it's definitely doable. It depends upon what it is that you want. A person says, I'm 59, a W-2 employee, planning retiring and living off crypto investments. Can I start the process and retire later? Nobody is going to take a tax stand while being employed. So whatever your timeline with respect to your retirement is one thing. If you're going to be receiving a pension, all that paperwork is been set up improperly. You may have to reset up that. But nobody's going to do these processes. And let me correct this. You can do these processes, but it's inconsistent. If the IRS is still taking money for, the bank, your employer is still sending them not only taxes but Social Security, you're in that jurisdiction. And so you definitely want to stop that, because if you don't have a tax liability, why send the District of Columbia your money? You have to immediately stop that. And if you like the company you're working for, then contract with them. So if you're important enough, the company will contract with you. If you're not, and then of course it's not really going to matter. I mean, if they're withholding, then there's no sense in you stop filing while they're withholding. You need to change those relationships. And it's definitely doable, and people have done that. So don't think that you can't navigate it. You're just going to contract and be responsible for yourself. And again, if you don't have a tax liability, then your crypto winnings are also, they're not going to have a tax liability, and that's an important thing, especially in the crypto community. If you have your crypto set up on exchanges, and that's where they are, your cryptos are not yours. They are being held by an exchange. Everything should be in your private wallet. And then your privacy is a big deal. So if you've done KYC, I think it's KYC, know your customer, as a federal citizen, then that's going to be a breakdown as well. That will have to be corrected and changed. And again, we don't recommend using public exchanges. Do your crypto one-on-one, individually to each other. And if you're going to be on an exchange, be on a decentralized exchange that doesn't ask for KYC. That's an important part of the crypto community. And yes, you can get started now and retire later. But again, I don't recommend you taking a tax stand while still paying into the District of Columbia. Someone says I have a question about the passport workshop. It says it includes both alignment classes and workshop. It includes both alignment workshops, and there's only one class. It says I was wanting to clarify which specific class or workshop are included. Everything that we have. Let me qualify that. It doesn't include trusts. It doesn't include our debt discharge workshop. It's the alignment workshops, which includes the alignment workshops are the. I'm just going to go to the website here. Let's see here. So that would be the passport workshop is its own. There's the alignment workshop for the driver's license. That's a big and an important workshop. There's the W-8 and W-9, IRS W-8 and W-9 workshop that gives you your proper tax documents and things like that. And then there's a 1445 real estate transaction workshop that, like I did today, where they're asking you, are you a non-resident alien? So those are the alignment workshops. The debt discharge workshop's not a part of that. At some point soon, we're going to do a day a day in dealing with the IRS, like what I call it's from soup to nuts. Right now, I'm just writing that class and putting it together so that we can offer that. Once that's recorded, that'll be available to clients. Nothing that we do is available to people other than our state citizenship class. Everyone who takes on any of our class and workshop has to be a client. They have to have a hold harmless agreement, and that has to be in place. So the only the state citizenship class doesn't require a hold harmless agreement. That's just that's $385. That's so that you can see who has an income tax liability and why, and that certainly that it is constitutional in that way. Is this recorded? If so, where can I get? Well, this is being recorded live, and it'll be available on the YouTube channel here. Can you be a state citizen and still have an account with a KYC and crypto exchange? And I ask this because KYC exchanges are the only good way to get your crypto exchange into dollars. Well, it may be a good way. If you're creating a tax liability, that might not be a good way. It may be easy, but then again, you may have set up this thing like as if you're a federal citizen. So you're going to have proper tax documents and such as that. So as long as your paperwork's right and it's true and correct, then you're fine. Because remember, these exchanges, based on paying out at some point, if the IRS wants to come on and say to the exchange, oh, do you have, Toby's money? They're going to say, we'll give it to you. That'll happen. And it's going to happen. So if you're okay with those kind of relationships, well, then by all means, keep them on the exchanges. But I don't recommend that. Never keep money on an exchange. Do the exchange and remove your asset from the exchange. If your KYC is incorrect, you have to update it. You may have to give them a W-8 and W-9. A W-9 is a request for a tax ID number. On our W-9, it is you show up as exempt. Okay. We don't use W-8 BENs. We only have a W-8, a certificate of foreign status. That's all it is. It's a general W-8, okay? It goes with your W-9 and shows that you're foreign to the District of Columbia, okay? That's the tax forms. We use them for years. They've been great. I've just given another one out. I gave those same documents to PayPal. I've never given PayPal a social security number or anything of that nature. I've always shown that I've been exempt. They don't send me 1099s or anything like that. I don't have that kind of relationship with PayPal. So everything we do is without the federal zone and in that. So that's a good question. If you become a state citizen, so does it mean we stop filing taxes? That's a good question. The thing is you have to understand who has the tax liability. Then that way you can determine if you are that kind of an entity. It's not for me to determine whether you have a tax liability and whether you should stop filing. Income tax, the federal income tax is for all U.S. citizens, regardless of where they live, and resident aliens. Now, the State Department and the IRS both determine U.S. citizenship by the 14th Amendment. Okay, a state citizen, as referenced in the Constitution before the 14th Amendment, says the citizens of the states are entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. That is a state citizen. It's a reference to a state citizen. It's not the creation of it. It's just a reference to it, and says that the federal government cannot favor one state citizen over another. There's an equality, if you will, with respect to the different citizens of different states. Now, before the 14th Amendment, if there was a reference to a United States citizen, it would be referencing those state citizens. It wasn't until the 14th Amendment that the federal government began having a statutory citizen, as it says, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And then they, of course, at some point they have, once the income tax was created, a filing requirement. That's what the tax code says. And again, our class goes into that in great detail. So a state citizen has no income tax liability, not state or federal, okay? So, but you'll be the one to determine whether you're going to have to file or pay. Because see, just because someone's a state citizen, I don't know how to answer your question, because if you're a state citizen and you're receiving federal benefits of some sort, well, then it may create a tax liability, even though you're alien with respect to the federal government. So it's not, I don't have enough information about you to determine whether you could or would or should stop filing income taxes. Person says, can a naturalized person who is now, I know, says, can a naturalized person who is now a federal citizen change this to become a state citizen as well? Of course. You know, if you look at your naturalization certificate, it'll tell you the state that you naturalized in. Your first citizenship is the state in which you had your habitation domicile. That's what it is. The federal government, with respect to Social Security and other things, has invited you, first of all, if you were a resident alien, you were never probably residing in the District of Columbia, even though on paper that's what you were doing with a visa of some sort. So you were a resident alien at that time before you naturalized. Then when you naturalized, you became a U.S. citizen. Your relationship, especially if you have a passport with the federal government, is saying that you're a citizen of, subject to the jurisdiction of. That's a federal citizen. So if you do the passport process, you'll need to inform the State Department that when you naturalize as a citizen of your state, wherever that was, and you now may be a citizen now of a different state based upon habitation domicile. That would show up in your driver's license, your duty to be on a jury, or your right to vote in some capacity. Your authority to choose your representative, whether that be for your town, your county, your state, and even the federal government on that level. But I don't recommend voting for anybody in the federal zone. Then someone says, I can win all that. You mentioned EIN number and get rid of it. What does that mean? An EIN is employee ID, or a TIN is a tax ID number. Those are, people who get those numbers are saying that they are doing a trade or business in the United States, District of Columbia. And so if you're not doing business in the District of Columbia, then you're improperly getting an EIN. And of course, the federal government hands those out like cocaine on a street corner. They're handing them out all the time because that brings everybody in that jurisdiction. So that's what an EIN is. A lot of times people will form corporations and they'll get a tax ID number, a TIN, okay, or even an EIN. Those, unless you're doing business in and with the District of Columbia, you don't need those numbers. Can I have a brokerage account? Permission granted. No. Can I have a brokerage account to day trade stocks as a state citizen without backing up or withholding of any kind? Well, of course. Just have proper paperwork. Just don't fill out bad paperwork. And then again, but you're going to have to learn how to submit that paperwork, even though those other entities don't know or understand what it is you're doing. You have to understand it yourself, so that when you do these things, you can explain to a comptroller or whatever it is and have proper paperwork. Okay. It's not a problem to give someone your social security number or the social security number. It's not yours. But you cannot have bad paperwork. So that's an important thing. So if you verbally gave someone social, that's not a big deal. If you wrote it down, you said for informational purposes only, or like we do with the driver's license, voter registration, jury duty. If you're gonna submit documents, you might have a caveat and say we don't have a tax liability. I'm not a U.S. citizen or resident alien. Blah blah blah. All these things may be in your paperwork so that it's crystal clear you're not in that jurisdiction. Okay. If I'm working and have a W-2, did you say once can ask the employer to work as a W-9? Again, it's not working as a W-9 or whatever. Some people will say, I'm a 1099. Don't call yourself your tax forms and stuff like that. Look, they want a tax ID, but they don't have to do anything with you at all. You don't have to give a tax number. Remember, it's a request for a tax ID. It's not a demand. There's no have to with respect to information. It's up to you. If in the passport process, the State Department says in their instructions, all information on this form, providing on this form is voluntary. It's all voluntary. So again, it's not about that. But look, the business person wants to be able to write off because they're benefiting from the plantation, and so they're having those obligations. Doesn't mean those are your obligations. They're going to fill out whatever forms they want to submit under penalty of perjury. You don't have anything to do with that. So if they're asking for a tax ID number, you're going to want to give them your W-9 that shows you're exempt. We have those forms for you, and your W-8 that goes with it as proof or how you have that exemption. And the W-8 is a certificate of foreign status. Right? So it says, if I'm working and have a W-2, did you say once I can ask the employer? Oh, we already got that one. And now listen, here's the other thing is if you're employed then, and you do this process with the State Department, you go into your, what do you call it, human resources and all that, say, I did a process with the State Department, so I can't do this withholding anymore. I'd like to continue to work with the company. I feel I'm valuable. I bring asset to the company. I would like to contract my labor with them. And so I want to be responsible for my own taxes, if any. And so that would be, you'd contract, you'd submit invoice, they'd make payment. Whether you make that every week, every month, or whatever it is, people do that with corporations all the time. As a co-owner of a mining company that has a tax liability, is there a way to keep my ownership and personally have no tax liabilities? They said, well, of course, just don't fill out bad paperwork. You have this whole thing set up as you being a federal citizen, therefore you have these tax liabilities and obligations. So you have to revisit all that paperwork. If if you're not a federal citizen, okay, you cannot be an officer of a corporation and such as that, especially one with a tax ID number. It's illegal. So you lose it. Nothing in corporations. Listen, all corporations are governmental in nature. Therefore, did you want to have a government-controlled business? Isn't that what we call corporatism is fascism? Do you want to have a fascist business? Stay connected to the federal government, So where can one start the state citizenship or the passport process? Well, right on the website. You can go to right on the Destination Freedom website. Right below my picture in there is there's some links for the full passport service. Everyone who does our passport work, whether that's with the workshop or with our full process, has to do a hold harmless agreement. We have a specific hold harmless agreement for those in California, and then the rest are the other hold harmless. In the hold harmless, you're agreeing to arbitration and you're willing to release me from harm. Okay, this is your journey. I'm assisting you in your journey. It's not my journey. I'm not responsible for you. You're responsible for yourself. That's where you obtain the most freedom. And so that's what you agree to. That has to be notarized. You'll scan that to me, and you'll send that to statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org. Once we receive that, we receive payment. If you're doing the full passport process, we're going to get a copy of, you're going to fill out DS11, that's a passport application. You're going to send it to us, fill it out, including the social security number and all that, and then we will produce those documents for you, and then and we'll talk about that if we're doing the full passport process. If you're doing the workshop, then there's videos and templates for you, and that's how that goes. It's all on the website. If you need to get in touch with me and talk with me, you can set up, if you want me to have a conversation with you about your transition, how that may look and all that, you can set up a consultation call. If you have a quick question, certainly you can ask it here. But if you're watching this at a later time, if you reach out and you request, to talk with me, I'll be glad to see if I can squeeze you in some point. There's quite a bit of, we have quite a bit of activity going on, and we are looking for some help. Okay, looking for an office manager, someone that's going to be able to take up, my responsibilities and things that I'm doing, so that I can focus on, sharing this message. I have some other things that we're doing with this work. We're looking to unplug churches and things like that, dealing with a much broader scope on this, and that's happening as we speak. So anyway, that's part of it. And we're coming up to another 4 minutes. We'll get in and talk about death discharge. Let me see. If you have an EIN in the past, do you have to rescind it when you change it? No, you're going to communicate to IRS that it was set up in error, or you don't. You need to communicate that you no longer have a corporation or a tax ID number, and let them know that you're not using it anymore. That's an important thing, because you're not going to have a tax. If you're not going to fill out a tax form and you've done it in the past, they're going to look for you, write to you, and say, "Hey, we didn't get your tax return. What's the case?" So we do have responses for everything the IRS says. So definitely, if you've had an EIN, you might end up just informing them that you no longer are using it because you no longer have a corporation, or you have no need, and you never were intending to do a trade or business in the United States or the District of Columbia. So, and again, we're glad to help you with that in any way we can. And we have some of those resources and things on the website. Someone says, full passport and workshop, what are the differences? Well, one is the price. The full passport process is $4,400. That includes all the workshops and the state citizenship class. Now that's when we do all your paperwork up for you. You give us, you fill out the DS11. We'll be producing all those documents. When you were doing the process, if the State Department writes, which probably 50% of the time, maybe less than that, the State Department will reach out and say, "Hey, we need this or that." We write all those responses, because sometimes for many people that looks like they're being denied passport. We have not had anybody, we've not had anybody not get a passport in our processes by doing what we're doing. Well, they certainly have had a handful of people who have had a tax liability before over $50,000, and so the State Department has received something from IRS, and then they've not gotten passport because they have something greater than $50,000. That's a thing for some, and we have a couple clients in which we're dealing with that with IRS, and that might end up having to be court litigation. And we're prepared to do that, and that's the pathway we're going to go down with them. So, but the passport workshop it's $1,660, and it includes all the workshops and all. But the difference with that is there's templates and videos that tell you how to fill out the application, and then it also provides you with explanatory statements that are specific for you. We have different explanatory statements for different kinds of people that have had passports before, people that haven't, people that are naturalized, people that are, didn't naturalize, they were born in the States. What we don't have on the website are the paperwork for children. If you're going to have children do the passport process, then there are fees for that where we can do up the documents for your children. And And then that's, for those that have done the workshop and things like that. If we do the full passport process with the children, there are discounts, family discounts, and discounts for children because they're not getting the workshops and all that stuff. So it's less for them. And again, we will communicate that in email with you. But that's the difference between the passport workshop and the full passport. We do the documents, and then, but in the workshop, you do the documents. Someone says they love my work. That's so kind. Working in R and, it must be Arkansas maybe, I don't know. And a permanent resident. My driver's license is up for renewal in Texas. So it says you're working in AR. Maybe that's Arkansas? That's AR is Arkansas, isn't it? And a permanent resident. So that would be where you'd have your habitation domicile if you're changing that over into Texas. And again, if you're doing you typically, in these processes, once you've done the passport process, you typically wouldn't be doing a renewal. You might be doing a first-time driver's license because you're going to be changing something. It's not going to be just a renewal because the previous application, driver's license that is, may have had errors and things like that. So we have the alignment workshop helps that part of the process. So Texas resident, that's going to unplug churches. Yeah, that's what we are intending to not only, this is going to be that's a good question for transitioning here into our next part of the talk, which is talking about debt discharge. And again, after I talk about that, we can get into, we can get back into talking about state citizenship and all that. So I'm going to hold it right there. It says I got 4 stars on my passport card. Any idea what that means? We have some idea, not specifically, but we do know what the State Department says about it, and I'll tell you with it. Copper Moonshine doesn't work, so don't do his stuff unless you want to do the process again. So it's just kind of funky. Most of these people don't really give the kind of support that you really need in order to get documents like that. So I'm just looking to see if the website is back up again. Let's see. I bet you. Let's see if it's. Let's see. I wonder if it's going to go. It's the top of the hour. We're just going to check it out. Hey, it looks like something's a little different. Let's see if we can get this on. All right. Let's see if we can start the call. Don't you love computers? Yeah, we're going to start talking about, and then I'll come back to these questions and make sure that everything is good. Let's see if I'm going to see if I can get in on this. I'm trying to see the go-to, if I can get the go-to meeting thing. Let's see if it'll start up there. All right, no, that's not what I want to do. Let's see here. Bum, 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 bum. Let's see if it'll do it. I don't know if it's going to do it. Let me just check out. All right, let's see. Well, it looks like I'm on the, looks like something's on the, let's see if I can do the pop out. It's okay. Maybe I'm just going to have to do it like this. That's funny. Okay, yeah. So yeah, it looks like we're on the go-to meeting site, so that's cool. So again, if you want to have some interaction, I'll be able to hear. Let me just make sure I have my. Let's see. Wow, then that great. It's crazy. It's saying no mic. Hold on. Switch to pop-up. See if it'll go. So we're still trying to do that. I'm going to download. I don't think I'm already. going to make it. I don't think so. Yeah, it looks like, oh, there it is. Wow, that came in. All right. Looks like we're up on the website. How about that for a lovely thing? So that was difficult. So they must have been having some sort of a problem. Oh, I joined the website from a different thing. Looks like I'm kind of in here twice. That's crazy. Okay. So I don't care. I'm not going to change anything. It's too so. Yeah, so it's up on there. So if you want to leave the YouTube channel and come on to the GoToMeeting, you can certainly do that. I appreciate everybody that's on here. So anyway, so I want to talk about death discharge. Then we'll come back to talk about state citizenship and the process and all that. Well, as everyone knows, today I was dealing with, I was doing paperwork and such as that with reading banking material and things, and so it's just really kind of funky, and so as I'm doing all these transactions and I'm reading everything, and with this gal that has no idea, what I'm about or what I'm doing, they want me to fill out, what do you do for work? Are you employed? I'm like, no, I'm not employed. Not employed. What's the name of your company? I don't have a company. I just do things in my own capacity, and so I just do business as me. So there's no name. So I put American Supreme Law on that. It's not a corporation. It's just an idea. It's just my ministry, if you will. But I've not registered. There's nothing to register. It's just a name, American Supreme Law. DestinationFreedom.org is my website. That's all it is. There's no other thing. It's just me, So anyway, just filling out paperwork is just kind of fun, but I have to read everything, and so it takes much longer than what they expect. They just expect people just to sign everything, and I had my stamp, all rights reserved, just like never had anybody stamp these things before. I was like, well, you never seen anybody that has no tax liabilities, so that's just the way it is. So can everybody hear me? Yeah, good, the mic's on. They're going, okay, that's good. Let me do this. Let's see if it's, yeah, I don't hear anything that says this conference is now being recorded, but maybe it is. So we'll see what happens. So anyway, so dealing with, yeah, I'm not in charge of your volume. You'll have to deal with. So the idea is that people are in debt a lot. And let me just say, I just want to talk about the mindset. Okay, and how people are thinking about these things, okay? If you don't know how fractional reserve lending works and how banking works, if you've never read The Creature from Jekyll Island, so that you understand that the Federal Reserve is not, is a banking cartel, it's family businesses, if you will, and the only thing that's federal about it is the fact that the Congress has passed the Federal Reserve Act, creating the central bank, if you will. And so, but in the writing of that, they don't have obligations that many and most corporations have. They have, they're doing a great job on their own, creating wealth for themselves with real property. So I'm not going to go into all that about banking, but if you don't understand those things, it's important that you understand that so that when you're doing the debt discharge, you understand what we're doing. Okay. And so what happens is that people have, there's all kinds of different kinds of loans, if you will. I'll use that loosely. There's secured loans, and then there's things that are just by setting up promissory or agreements of some sort, right? But most credit card debt is unsecured. That means there's no asset actually backing up that, there's no collateral. The bankers, when you get a mortgage, the bankers should, or they have title to the house. They own it. You're making payments. Once the payments are all paid, they transfer the title over to you. That's how it happens. Same thing with a car. You're not going to discharge the car because the moment you stop paying, they're going to take the car away from you. Now, if they take the car away from you and you're like, okay, great, I don't owe this anymore, then you could discharge that because there's no more collateral. They already have the collateral. It's not a problem to discharge that because they actually don't give you anything. And so when we do debt discharge, with clients, we're doing it not in A for V, or we're not doing it in, the alleged trust, and don't do any of that straw man stuff at all. That's not what it's about. This process is based in the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Okay, and so that is, if you read that act, you can see that it talks about the relationship that the banks have with the people. And one of the particular things that they have is that they cannot change the nature of the debt. Okay, it is what it is. Okay, and so one of the ironic things that we do, and we do this with a process. It's a two-part process. We first ask the bank to validate the debt, and we have a list of questions that we ask them about the nature of the alleged debt. Now, we know that the banks do not actually give you real asset. Like, let's say I had money in a bank, even if it's Federal Reserve notes. My labor creates my Federal Reserve notes. So if I have in the bank and you want to borrow them from me, if I give you Federal Reserve notes, I'm giving you some of my labor and all that. And if I lend it to you and say, hey, can you give me back my money or whatever? And if someone's in a business deal and they say, I want something for doing that, that's fine. But as Christians or other people of faith, we're not supposed to charge usury when we lend, if we lend. And the scriptures is very clear that we're not to borrow. But if you borrow, it's only a 7-year relationship ever. And that at the end of 7 years, there is no more debt owed. Those are standards that Muslims, Christians, Jews should be practicing among themselves, and they don't. Okay? And so, many of us, or many of these faith-based or people are in relationship with money changers or with central bankers who do what they do. And so when we ask the bank to validate the debt, we're asking them, where did you get the funds from? Isn't that ironic? How many times you withdraw or you're going to deposit some cash or whatever, and they're asking, where did you get the funds from? Because, they want to know if you're a terrorist, and that's a bad thing, and so you don't want to be a terrorist. And then they may want to know if you're a drug dealer, and that's a bad thing, because you don't want to be a drug dealer, unless, of course, you are selling big pharma drugs that kill people. That's okay, kind of drug dealer. And if you're a U.S. terrorist, meaning that you want to invade other countries in the name of, God bless America and all that, that kind of terrorist is okay, of course. And if we in America want to fund other countries that want to be terrorists around the world, that kind of terrorism is, of course, fine and okay. Those are things that we in America do because we're land of the free, home of the brave. Bull crap. Okay. But see, so when we ask the banks, maybe we say, well, Mr. Banker, where are you getting these funds? Because you may be a terrorist, you may be a drug dealer, and they probably are. But we don't ask them about the drugs now. But I just think it's great to ask the bank, where'd you get the freaking funds from? Because there's two places they could get them. They could be depositors' assets, which they're not, or they could be the bank's assets, which they're not. So all they've done is created a line of credit for you. Okay? That's all they've done. And so that's all they've extended is credit. Some of the banks have revealed in our processes that all they've done is extended credit. It's very easy to discharge that because they've given you nothing. They just set up this relationship, how people are. And what it is some people, and I'm going to get into talk about the mindset, because some people is like, well, geez, it's not honest that you're going to, get the computer, get the thing on your card, and now you're not going to pay for it. And I say, like, well, listen, just be, let's deal with facts and evidence, okay? So whoever you got the computer from, okay, call them up and ask them if they've been compensated for the computer. They'll say, yep, we're all good. We're all good. We got our account's been credited. Well, where'd that money come from if you haven't paid for it yet? Didn't come from a depositor. And I'm telling you right now, the bank didn't send them their money. Okay? The truth is, they've just been credited in their account. And you paying your bill or not has nothing to do with the merchant getting their asset from it. Okay? That's the nature of credit, a credit type of thing. And let me say this, and this is an important distinction I want you to understand. As Morpheus says, not everybody is ready to be unplugged. Most of these people are so hopelessly and tied. My paraphrase is tied to the system that they will fight to defend it. That really is happening, folks. Whether that's you thinking you deserve your Social Security, or that people think that you have obligations to pay certain bankers back and all that, but that's not the case, because we're not dealing with the facts and evidence to support the claim. So the idea is that you're going to ask them where they get the assets. They can't produce the facts and evidence to support where they got the asset from. So at that point, you say to them, we're willing to pay or discharge if you can prove where you at least write and certify under penalty of perjury that that's what happened. And of course they can't. We know they can't, so we see that. And so there's a pathway in that. So my concern for when a new client comes on and they're going to do this debt discharge is that they're clear that they're all done with being addicted to credit. I still get people who say like, I'd like to get rid of all my debt. Will it affect my credit score? Can I have my high credit score? It's like, you're not ready. Okay, keep paying the bankers because you need to maintain your good high credit score. Okay, so if you don't need any credit, you get a high score, so we can entice you to come in, and we'll treat you really good because you've got a high credit score. If you struggle in your finances and have a low credit score, well, we don't really want to do business too much to you. So we want to invite you to have a high score so that we can do that. So that's what we do, is we create it. And what we want you to know is that credit stuff, that's your identity. That's who you are. You have to protect your informational identity, because we don't want anybody to steal your identity. If that's how you're defining who you are, you're in the matrix. You're tied into those systems. And you might want to ask your creator, is that who I am? Am I my banking information? No one can steal your identity. Okay? They can, I recommend you take your Social Security number, find a big billboard on the big highway, put it up there and say, Social Security number, here's my name. Use it, take it, good luck. Have a nice day. Good luck. What are they going to do? Tell you, oh, take it down. You got to keep that thing a secret because it's so important. It's a mess, folks. So when you're all done with being addicted to credit, you'll be able to slough this off nice and easy. And you can go back to being sovereign in the sense of, I don't mean sovereign, I mean solvent. So that you have cash in your pocket. Now you'll spend cash. Now, when I say that, listen, everybody's bank account is a credit card. It's a floating credit card. When you deposit Federal Reserve notes, that's your new balance, and you can buy against it and all that. It's all debt, okay? But we're not talking about your bank account. Use that accordingly and all that. And then listen, in the name of people have credit cards and it's fine for them. They rent their car, they pay the bill, and people aren't having problems. These aren't the people that we're really talking about, and although you can discharge, anyone can discharge their debt in that capacity. But the idea is that there are people whose lives have not been working well, and the amount of money they're paying out, they can barely make ends meet because they have to pay the bankers first. And of course, they will easily can move this towards litigation. Okay. So those are the people that we're concerned with, the people that want to be all done with central bankers. If you want to borrow money or something else in the crypto space, that, in the freedom community, work out relationship where you want to take a personal borrow from someone personally, be, responsible for that. And then, then you can be, then you can set that up and do a better job of how you're managing, how you feel about it, and how you think about it. That's an important thing. So again, what we do is we ask them to validate. They fail to validate, we put them in default. And that's a default paper we have all the legal stuff associated with it. But the moment you start this process, you're no longer having to pay. Now, one of the unique things about this unsecured credit is some people have margins still on their cards. And so some people will pay us or pay for our processes and stuff on the credit card, and then they'll discharge it. Some will put crypto on those cards and discharge it. Some will, buy or purchase other things, and then they'll discharge it in that capacity. Then the banks can pay for those real assets that you're actually getting and such as that. So listen, that's what bankers do. They take real assets, they take their shit money, that is the Federal Reserve note, the warmongering money, and they buy real assets. They buy gold, silver, they buy real property with this crap money that's, falling in its value, and that controls oil and the price of oil, which is economies all over the place. Jason came on and didn't mute himself there. Jason, was there something that you needed to say? Okay. All right, that's cool. Anyway, so they can't hear that on YouTube, but anyway, in the GoToMeeting, someone had opened their mic. So anyway, so that's the relationship with respect to the banks. Now, what happens usually, sometimes the banks will discharge it at that point, and then that'll be done. Will it affect your credit score? Of course. Listen, what's amazing is that I remember today I was going to pay $2,500, and the woman had asked me about the last time that I had done this. I said, when they were telling me I needed this amount of money, and then they went away, and then they came back because they noticed I don't have any credit. Okay, it's not that I have bad credit. I have no credit, like a baby, like that. And sometimes people are surprised at that. So they come back and it's like, no, and they say, well, we need more money. I'm like, really? And so I'm like, this is ridiculous. And then I do that. When we get to the final contract, they're like, we need more money. It's like, what are we doing here? You keep changing this because it's a kind of a weird kind of situation that I'm in. And I haven't had debt, credit card stuff since, early 2000s or years ago. I used to be in like, about $65,000 in debt, and then all of a sudden, once I had a friend gift me and help me out, and that was the last time I ever borrowed money in that capacity, and so it was great. Now here I am helping people come out of their enslavement. So what happens is the banks now many times will put you in default or not, but if not, then there are law firms that specialize in credit card debt and such as that, or debt in general, and they will come in and they'll buy the debt up, pennies on the dollar, looking to litigate and get a return on that investment, and it could be less, but it's going to be more, they'll get more than what they're paying for it. That happens all the time. When those people show up with respect to these things, we write to them and let them know the bank's in default. We're not going to be giving them any money or no negotiating and all that. We show them the default letters and all that. Usually that debt goes back to the central bankers, back to the banks, Citibank, the majors, Discover, American Express, Chase, Capital One. All those major ones are the ones. They're all J.P. Morgan. It's all central bankers. So anyway, so it usually goes back, and then you have a timeline somewhere between 3 and 6 years for them to litigate, if they're going to litigate. It's very rare that they litigate. If they're going to litigate, then the questions that you have in your validation letter have to be compelled by subpoena and get the court to force that they have to prove where the assets come, that they're experiencing a loss because the asset is out. So that's part of it. Now, I'm going to get to your questions in a second here that are in the channel, and I'll read them out. The thing is that we only make this available for those that are clients that don't have an income tax liability, because the banks and the IRS are hand in hand. And so if the banks may discharge your debt, and then they'll send a certain type of 1099, which is a disclosure, and say they've gifted you, it'll create a tax liability with IRS. So you don't want to have the tax liability. If you don't have a tax liability, it doesn't matter what they say or to the IRS. You're not going to have a tax obligation. That's the much better way to do that. If you're a federal citizen and you do these, like for example, someone asked, does this do for student loans? Yes, but if it's a bank that's dealt with that, most of the time the bank's student loans are government-backed loans, so that if the the entity, the person stops paying, they are happy with that. They immediately file a claim with the federal government. The federal government pays it, and then the federal government comes after to collect on that because that person's a federal citizen, and of course that creates tax liability as well. But they'll just move to garnishment instead of actual due process because they're handling that person as a federal citizen. So that's why we want you to do this process, the state citizenship process first. Secure yourself first, then you can secure your assets and your property. That's how we recommend that you do that. Another question about the does it mean you don't need a nonprofit organization? Yeah, you don't need any kind of a nonprofit. All that stuff is for federal citizens. That's a tax thing. Does this apply to student loans? Yep. Mortgages, personal loans. Again, personal loans would have to be scrutinized. If it's unsecured, then yes, it's credit card type stuff. Unsecured loans, even if it's in your personal capacity. If you're dealing with a smaller local bank, they may have the items that you're asking for. You may have an obligation if they can prove that they took a lender's asset or whatever it is. But again, it's their obligation to prove that this isn't credit. Okay, and so that's just part of it. So after you've put them in default, and after a lot of times most of the activities that first year or so, then eventually it dissipates, and then there'll be no more interaction. If it moves towards court, then of course you're going to deal with an attorney, and sometimes attorneys lie. Does that surprise you? Sometimes attorneys lie. That's this environment we live in, right? But sometimes they make like they're going to court, and the truth is they are not in court. They have documents that look like they submitted them. They have kind of fake court cases and all. That's really common. That's why we have to find out if there's actually submitting court cases and things like that. And if that's what's happening, then again, you're going to need to litigate in the sense of that they're going to be compelling you in to say that you have an obligation. You're going to present your evidence that the bank's in default, that they were given an opportunity to prove that they actually gave you something, that nature of that. And so you're going to ask them to disclose, certified under penalty of perjury, that where they got the asset from. And that's part of it. So that's really pretty much the end of that process. And again, once you begin it, you can stop, and do that. Now, we have in the past helped clients, and usually we've charged 10% for that debt discharge, but they have to be, it has to be over $10,000 because it's too much paperwork to do it for such little. And let me tell you, if you are dealing with debt, alleged debt, under $10,000, and you're struggling with that, you need a breakthrough financially more than you need to be out of debt, okay? And so if you have a financial breakthrough, that might not be a problem, is just paying off some obligation that you have that's very small. Again, the honesty about it is you may need a breakthrough in creating wealth, not getting out of debt, making your world smaller and such as that. Same thing goes with if you think that it's a lot of money to purchase our services and all, then I would say that we're committed to helping you create greater amounts of wealth so that these things aren't a burden to you and your life can be much more abundant. That's an important thing, and we recognize that for people's financial freedom. We're definitely interested in that. We have provisions for that, with respect to coaching and helping you even go from being employed to running your own business, whatever it is you want to do. And there's 1,000 things that you can do. If you're creative and you open up the idea that you can serve people and be compensated if you give them your best, okay? And so that's part of that. I want to get to some of these questions. How do you have a website without an entity? I just buy web domains, and then you can pay a service provider to create a website. You don't have to be an entity to get a website. I've got dozens of websites, So, but anyway, yeah, you don't have to have an entity for anything. You can do everything in your personal capacity. If you want to have a bit of privacy or something, you can set up a trust in that way and be a trustee and things like that. We do that for many of our clients that are moving into these, away from these IRS things, many times they put their houses into trust so that they're protected. They don't own them. Therefore, if something's coming towards them, it's not touching their personal property. That's a thing. Most wealthy people have trusts or foundations, things like that. But most of those things are in the federal zone. We do foreign irrevocable contractual trusts that are not based in the District of Columbia. So, let's see, a question here. It says, how do you help one get started if they are financially struggling to create wealth? Well, I mean, I'd love to talk with you. We actually have a possibility, what we call a weekly accountability call. And that is, each week, you can come together and then you can declare what it is you want. And, those of us around will encourage you to say like, hey, here's where you want to go. You might need some ideas, but you can immediately start doing a business of your own in whatever capacity you want to serve people, and can begin creating wealth for yourself without having to form anything. Okay. And I have some videos and audios. They may be audios. I'm not sure if it's an audio or video on the website under what is it under? It's under the conference calls at the bottom. There's other videos and things, and I think I have one in there on abundance and stuff like that. So yeah, if you're committed to having something different happen, you can create these obligations for yourself and to come in, and there's no cost for that accountability call. And that means that you might be in a small group and you're going to declare what you're after, what you're about, and then you'll get to perform that this week. Many times, and I've said this in other calls we've had, a lot of times if you're going to launch a business, start it on Monday, okay? Because the week flows into Friday. So even if you're doing you're employed somewhere, then work out to having Monday off so that you can focus on your business. And it should be in the week, not on the weekend. Because again, you gotta think like you're doing business, and you got to change the way you think and relate to things. Listen, the difference between wealthy and poor people, if you will, are the way they think about money. That's the first place you're going to change, is how you're relating to money. If you have a funky way you think about money and or rich people, you're going to have to shift off that and realize that you need to have something different happen for you. And if you think I'm telling you what you think about what's possible, whether we're talking freedom or we're talking about state citizenship, anything is really what's going to come up in your life. If you think these processes are a fight, I can promise you a fight. If you think that it's a struggle, and I can hear it in your language, how you're going to relate and all, that's going to say, well, that's going to be the kind of thing and the way you're going to be. I don't want to deal with people who think this stuff is a fight, or that they're going to fight their government, or it's like, lose the fight. This is love, and we're just doing paperwork. We're just telling the truth. Everything's in the light. That's the way we do this stuff. This isn't a fight. So Maureen, you want to be a part of the accountability group, then just email me at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org and just say that you'd like to be a part of the accountability call. And then I'll get you that information, and we can start that this coming Sunday. It'll be an hour call or whatever it is, and we'll open up possibilities for you, and we'll make our declarations of what we're after this week and what we want to see have happen. You'll be surprised at the kind of support that is. Now we have counsel, because in that call I'm not going to be telling you anything about these processes. We'll be talking about you creating wealth for yourself. Okay, so it's not a counsel call where I'm giving that. I have there's paid things. You can be part of $100 an hour each week. That's a group of less than 10. If you want to do one-on-one and book something for 6 months, that's $2,400 every week, an hour. That can be one-on-one, or you can pay us by the hour, which is $450, and do it as piecemeal. All that's available for support, depending on what you want for yourself, and we'll help you move in that direction. You can also, we have an affiliate program with what we do. Also, if you're in your area You think you could put 10 people together for a class? I'll come to your area and we'll do your passport process for no cost to you. If you have 10 people that want to take our state citizenship class, we'd be up for that. So, that's one way you can get your passport work done, is just by having 10 people take our class, and I'll fly in and or drive in, or whatever it is, depends on where you are, and then we'll we'll help you, and we'll stay there after we do class, and we'll do passport work for those people and things like that. That's a joy. Again, reach out to you and we can talk and take care of that or figure it out. Want to get some questions that are on the YouTube channel here. Let's see. It says. Let me see how far back we go on the last. Oh, here it is. Let's see. Wow. Oh yeah, there was one question about. And we could talk about banking, some more banking, but I just want to close that out with respect to about the banks and all that, and the discharging debt. It's really liberating to actually be. I mean, we've helped people with, hundreds of thousands of dollars in credit card debt. And 1 minute they're making payments of hundreds of thousands of dollars every month. The next, they don't have that. Now that's all. They can either invest in something else or they can improve their lifestyle. They're no longer paying those out. And so anyway, it's kind of interesting. And I have a talk on the website about debt discharge. And so I think that's pretty much it. We do have a debt discharge workshop, which costs $17.76. And that's, you could put that on your credit card and then discharge it. That way the bank pays for the discharge class. That's kind of ironic, isn't it? Or, you can pay it some other way, cryptocurrency or whatever, and then we'll give you access. That has all the templates, and there's videos associated with doing these processes. That's there on the website. So anyway, someone said, getting back to the passport stuff, or the state citizenship things, there's some questions that have come in. I want to make sure that we cover that for people. It says, I got 4 stars on my passport card. Any idea what that means? Well, all we know, we wrote to the State Department, asked them what it was. They said it was security in nature and that it was classified, and they couldn't disclose the distinctions between 1 star and 5 stars. Now, when I polled our clients, we have clients that have done this process with 1 star to 5 star. I have 3 stars. We have one client, he and his wife were ex-military, and so, and I think he had some security clearances and stuff like that in that. Anyway, like his wife had 3 stars, he had 4 stars, if I remember correctly. And then they had 4 children. 3 of the children have 3 stars, 1 child has 4 stars. So, what do you think it means? It doesn't mean what they're saying out there, what it means. It doesn't mean that if you have 5 stars, you're on the do not detain list. No such list. That's just all patriot. That's what everybody wants. They want get out of jail free card. I want to be able to drive like an idiot and not get arrested because I got my 5 stars on my passport card. That's just nonsense. So that's, the wife just came in. Anyway, that happens all the time, right? Anyway, so that's just part of that. And again, the guy with Copper Moonshine, if you want an awesome still, he's your man. He looks like he makes excellent stills. As far as passport process, he doesn't really have a good experience. I've known 3 different clients that was doing his stuff, that the Justice Department was pursuing them for perjury because they put zeros on their passports, saying as if they didn't have a social security number. It's bad. We had to work those things out so they weren't charged with perjury. But the federal government will definitely charge you with perjury. They changed their information from time to time, but they weren't producing anything with respect to an explanatory statement. I think many times they say don't do that. We've never put a social security number on our applications. We do put a social security number on the first page of the explanatory statement because we want them to keep the explanatory statement in the record. And then after in the passport process, we do a FOIA request. That's a Freedom of Information Act request, where we get certified copies of your passport file. That's your evidence that you've done this process as a state citizen. There is no, the federal government's going to give you anything that's going to say, oh, you got out, or way to go, or you're no longer this or that. There's no real status change. You're the one declaring things, whether you're a federal citizen or not. You get to change them, and that's what we do with the passport process. Then it goes on to say, also say, it says, on the show last week, it says, welcome to the show. On the show last week, you mentioned the Social Security number is not required. You mentioned today Social Security number in the DS-11, please. Yeah, I mean, when we get from our clients, they write a Social Security number on their forms, but in the passport workshop, in our process, we never put any Social Security number on the application. Matter of fact, what we have written in there is see explanatory statement attached. So that's what we do on the application. We do put the Social Security number in the we put the Social Security number in the first page in big red letters on the first page of the explanatory statement. We have a 10-page explanatory statement. 4 pages are an affidavit, 6 other pages are a supporting document. It's really simple, and it deals just with the application. It doesn't have other things in it. Someone says, how can I convert my cryptocurrency to fiat to pay rent or other exchanges from DXs? When I transfer money from DX banks, I'm often asked where the money came from. Yeah, see, you're in the crypto space. Oh, well, where's the money coming from? Well, duh, cryptocurrency, crazy. But again, it's not you're getting around anything. You have to tell the truth. They're thinking they're not thinking anything. The paperwork is that you're a federal citizen or a resident alien. And then many times people think that they're in the United States when that is, according to the tax code, that's the District of Columbia. So you just have to have your paperwork correct. You give them a W-8, W-9 showing that you're exempt. You have no tax liability. If you're going to fill out some form of theirs, you might have an explanatory statement associated with it. The alignment workshop would deal with, how they're asking you or what they're asking you with respect to money or what have you. That's why our alignment workshops are so important for you to understand. You can understand this subject matter and know how to navigate this. You have to understand that this is jurisdiction. It's not about not paying taxes. It's not having, like to say, a tax liability. Okay. Let's see. Was in the plane. It was fun. Listen, I'm hoping you're not talking to each other on the. I mean, when this is recorded, chit chat and all that stuff. That's up to you guys what you want to do. But if I'm trying to answer questions, if you're chatting with each other, then like in any classroom, you're disrupting, and now I have to talk about that. So I'm hoping that this is not to. This may not be to me, so I have to figure out what you're saying. Do you have a gate? I don't know what that is. When on Medicare, how does one obtain health insurance? Well, pay for it. That's how you obtain health insurance. Go reach out to your insurance agent and say, I'm looking for health insurance. What are my options? It may be expensive, may not. I mean, you don't have to have insurance. Pay your bills. You can go to the hospital in an emergency situation. They'll fix you, keep you alive, and then just pay your bills. Sometimes, you're not even setting up you're not even, you can put it on a credit card, then discharge it. That's one thing you could do. But again, see, there's no interest. Why would, you wouldn't have to put anything on a credit card because the hospital doesn't charge interest for that. You could just, okay, I'll pay $100 a month. So how much did you want to pay for your medical insurance? $100 a month, $500 a month, $1,000 a month? Well, then pay that as your bill. You incur a life-saving medical treatment they have for you. Pay it off. Pay it off by $100 a month or whatever. Then at the end of it, instead of keep paying for nothing you're using, you've just paid your bill the way people pay bills, and then you're good. And usually, if you're paying the bill, you can scrutinize the bill and realize that they have a lot of a lot of things in these bills that you didn't owe. I remember I was going into surgery, and the anesthesiologist asked me, he says, "I know it's your self-pay. Do you want new or old drugs?" I said, "What's the difference?" He says, "Well, new drugs have royalties. They're more expensive. Old drugs don't, and so therefore they're cheaper." I'm like, "All right, bring on the old drugs." He says, "Sodium pentothal works all the time. We use them all the time." I was like, "Great." So you see, those are options you have when you're paying your own bill. So it's a good thing. Did the process with several credit cards. It works. That's great. Citibank sued me. Yes, they lied. Well, that's the courts are not. If you keep these things up and keep them current, you'll do better. Because the courts are not friendly. They do favor banks, and we believe that many judges are ruling in banks' favor because they have stock in these banks, or they may get kickbacks or whatever. It's definitely, listen, banking is a criminal activity. It's funky. Can mortgages be discharged as well? Yes, they can. It's not the same thing as an unsecured debt because that's a different matter. If they have title, then they can do foreclosure. You don't want to stop paying your mortgage when you're doing the forensic research to determine if they actually have the wedding signatures and title and all that. If you're going to do that forensic research, which we do, and can look into those things, you can do them yourself, or we actually have someone that is expert in that aspect of it, and we work together with them. There's a $500 look-see, and then I think it's like $5,000 for them to do the paperwork to determine if your lender actually have the assets they're supposed to have. Because if they don't, it's an easy court case where you quiet the title and then you get the abandoned title. Then after that, I would recommend suing the bank for every nickel you gave them, plus triplicate damages for organized crime and racketeering for receiving payment for something that they never owned. That's what we recommend. And so that's not the same as just dealing with an unsecured debt. So there's that. Will U.S. passport renewal process impede the process to change a state citizen at a later stage? Excuse me, I'm sorry. Are you saying when it comes time for renewal, is there going to be a problem with the renewal? Is that what you're asking me? Because we've been doing this for some clients over 10 years. Right now we're in our 20th year for doing this kind of work. And so yes, we've had clients do renewals with respect to their passports. The first time passport's always what we do, the DS11, but we'll do a DS82 when we're renewing on a DS11 that's been done correctly. So, will the passport process is that process to change states, later and all. But I mean, I don't know what the federal government's going to do later. I have no way of knowing. Do we touch on UCC? We don't do anything with UCC. You're not a corporation, so you don't need to be citing the Uniform Commercial Code. That's kind of crazy. But we do cite the code in Zimbabwe. Yeah, that's the one we put on all of our documents. It's just the Zim, because, Zimbabwe, that sounds like a neat name. So we put that in all of our, just kidding. It's like, that whole, I've got to cite the UCC is all based in straw man bullcrap and all that. So we don't do any of that. No, you don't need to cite it. Whatever you think you want to cite from the Uniform Commercial Code, just say it. All rights reserved without prejudice, non-assumpsit. Non-assumpsit means nothing's assumed. And cited under penalty of perjury. So, so that's pretty much, how that goes. Again, we don't need to cite the Uniform Commercial Code. If you had a corporation, the whole idea of a Uniform Commercial Code is so when corporations doing business worldwide, they have a uniformity in how they litigate or they do exchange and do stuff and all that. It's just business, how business can get along with each other. And of course, corporations are an extension of government. So consequently, government's involved and all that, and that's, how attorneys handle each other and whatever they're doing. So you don't want to be a part of any of that. It'll be a degrading of who you are and what you're about. So it looks like we got all the questions on the YouTube channel, and we're coming down to the last 10 minutes of our call for tonight. I think I caught all the questions on the go-to meeting. I apologize, like I was responsible, but the go-to meeting thing had a real problem tonight. I will talk to my web developer if we can end up doing something on the website directly instead of having this third party that many times screws up what we're doing. It'll be great not to have that. But anyway, this is nice to be able to be together and to do this. This is some of the last minute thoughts here. I just want to put this in your thoughts and in your prayers, if you would. I am looking for some office help, but I don't want to do it remotely. This would have to be someone that lives in or near Franklin, New Hampshire. So if we have someone who has skills in office management, and if they have some computer skills of like being able to use a pro Adobe writer and Word, things like that, we will, if they're versed, it would be excellent if they're versed in what do you call it? Our website is WordPress. That would be helpful as well. But we'll teach that stuff if they don't. But we do need someone who's committed to this work. Usually anybody that's going to be working with us is going to do these processes and is also going to be a state citizen. We will never have federal citizens working for us. Too much of a liability, and that would be bizarre anyway. So, lastly, what I want to mention to you is I'm in the process of developing this prayer website. It's called, if I remember correctly, I think I put it in the letter, an email that we sent out to you, but it's Prayer for Freedom 247.org. It was .net before we had some other thing that we were doing, but I like that better is the .org. And it was just prayer 24/7, but it is for freedom. So we're developing a freedom prayer site that's going to have people praying 24 hours a day for freedom in America, and consequently that blessing would bleed over into the world. And certainly we have things that we want to pray for. That's definitely there. But we really are looking for what God would have us to do. So we're actually going to, when people are doing their prayers, we're going to give them the support so that they know how to pray. And we want them to learn how to get quiet so they could hear from God. And we want that information that will come back into the site, and they'll be able to type in whatever they see, hear, or whatever. And so that we can reflect that into the things we want to pray for and have results for. We think that's going to be very interactive. And so we're going to give some support. And this coming Sunday afternoon, if you'd like, you can write to us at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org and say that you'd like to be a part of that call on this coming Sunday. I think it'll be in the afternoon. And we would like, if you'd like to be part of the prayer website to pray, or if you want to learn how to pray, we want to help you with that. If you would like to be part of our sponsor for the creating of the website, we're looking for some help with that. We're looking for setting up an initial $5,000 for the website to move forward. But the total web development for this particular site, in which you can log in and see people who are praying live, not see them, but an icon showing where these people that are praying 24 hours are in the United States. That imagery is what we're looking for, live interactive type of thing. And we think it's going to be quite beautiful to see this thing filled up, and 24 hours a day someone praying for freedom. And we certainly want the website to be praying for the freedom work that we're doing, because it's going to need prayer, because we're going to be dealing with unplugging churches and dealing with helping people do that. So if you'd like to be a part of that financially, we could definitely use your help, and we make sure those resources only go for the support of that website development. None of that money goes to me. It goes to just the website and its expenses in that. We'll have a prayer director, which isn't going to be me. We have someone already who's agreed to be a part of facilitating the prayer and being involved with how that goes. We'll talk more about that on Sunday if you'd like to be a part of that. So anyway, that's what we have for tonight, and it looks like we're all good with the calls. Thank you so much for being on, and we love you a lot. Thank you for praying for me. I covet your prayers. And we have a lot of activity coming in. We're going to reach and connect with everybody. We're going to follow up with everybody that's interested in doing these processes and make sure that those transitions are very smooth. Okay? Thank you so much. I love you. God bless you. And you're so much the best, you know? We'll see you soon. Take care. Let's see.